sessione 1 dedicata alla conservazione e restauro delle foreste del nostro futuro. Our Common Future era uno slogan a cui ho partecipato nel 1997 in Norvegia, no? Che gettava le basi dello sviluppo sostenibile, quindi a distanza ormai di quasi oltre 35 anni siamo alle prese con questa transizione ecologica che ci dovrà traghettare veramente nello sviluppo sostenibile. Allora non c'è dubbio che dal punto di vista delle scelte che dovremo fare, degli obiettivi che dovremo perseguire, la conservazione e il restauro degli ecosistemi forestali rappresentano degli obiettivi prioritari non solo a scala nazionale, a scala europea, ma a scala globale. Se ok, perché siamo in streaming, a questo punto darei inizio ai lavori chiamando Carlos Nobre a intervenire sul tema clima e foreste, un'emergenza planetaria. Carlos Nobre ha conseguito il dottorato presso il Massachusetts Institute of Technology in meteorologia e quindi poi si è dedicato da lungo tempo allo studio delle interazioni clima e foreste in Amazzonia, coniando proprio questo termine di salinificazione, no? Cioè il fatto che il disboscamento, il degrado della foresta amazzonica porta con sé poi un cambiamento climatico a scala macro-regionale, quindi aspetti che ci devono fare riflettere, e quindi lascerei la parola a Carlos Nobre a cui prego, se siamo pronti con la presentazione, di illustrarci, di introdurci un tema veramente importante, perché quello che faremo in questa sezione è approfondire gli aspetti dal punto di vista scientifico della mitigazione climatica delle foreste e della conservazione della biodiversità, queste due facce della medaglia di cui abbiamo parlato approfonditamente questa mattina. Ora noi affronteremo dal punto di vista della ricerca scientifica e delle soluzioni che poi via via durante la sessione verranno proposte dai vari relatori. Quindi a questo punto non so se Carlos intanto vuoi, if you want to introduce yourself and the subject of your relation while we are waiting.
Buongiorno a tutti. Grazie mille per l'invito. I'm sorry I couldn't speak Italian. So, thank you very much for the invitation. And we don't get my slides will show, but in the morning we had many very good presentations, particularly the one by Marco Lambertini talked a lot about the tipping elements of the planetary system. And I will talk about the one about the Amazon. And the title of my talk is Tipping Point of the Amazon, the Urgent Need for Nature-Based Solutions, which is very relevant to forest factors and how forests are important to fight the climate emergency that we are under. Even if the slides do not show, I will tell you. The Amazon forest evolved over tens of millions of years in a very unique way, particularly in the last 14 million years since the Andes mountains were lifted. So it's a very unique ecosystem in a sense that it's very efficient in recycling water. So the forest recycles water so efficiently that one molecule of water vapor entering the Amazon basin from the Atlantic, carried by the trade winds, recycle 5 to 8 times water vapor, cloud droplets, rain, soil, moisture, the rooting system pumps out that water, again, transpiration, again, water vapor, cloud droplets, etc., until it exits the Amazon basin in the west and south. Just to give you one figure, the Amazon River discharge is of cubic meters per second. The moisture flow exiting the Amazon is 200,000. It's almost equivalent. This is due to the recycling. And this is very efficient way. Close canopy, only 4% of solar radiation reaches the forest floor. Therefore, even when there is a lightning strike, ignited fire, it does not propagate because the forest floor, litter, trunks, rooting system is very wet, they are not failing. So this is a very unique evolution, very different than tropical savannas or mid-latitude ecosystems. So fire was not a very important element. Therefore, the Amazon has, along with other tropical forests, the Congo Basin and Southeast Asia, the largest biodiversity on the planet. 13% of all non-plant and animal species, for instance, 50,000, more than 50,000 species of plants, 16,000 of trees, 3,000 of fish, freshwater fish, just to give you this importance of the Amazon. So the Amazon, really, the forest is essential to maintaining the biodiversity, to maintaining climate stability. Also, most of the solar radiation is used for transpiration, and therefore, the temperature, maximum temperature of the forest top is 30 degrees. Okay, this is what the Amazon really is taking place for, as I said, millions and millions of years. But then, in 1970s, the Brazilian military dictatorship, they decided that they decided to move into the Amazon. At that time, they had this wrong perception that international countries, at that time mostly US, would affect the sovereignty, the nation's sovereignty. They would invade the Amazon due to the mineral resource. So they start really bringing millions of Brazilians to the Amazon, and they saw the forest as obstacle to quote-unquote development. So they started long-range deforestation. So that also expanded to other Amazonian countries. We have 8 Amazonian countries plus French Guiana. 0.5% of Amazon forest deforested. 0.5%. Today, we have 18% already deforested and 17% in several stages of forest degradation. And this is something that really is also increasing tremendously. Forest degradation is caused by selective logging. It's caused by in the border of forest and cattle ranches and pasture, the fire escapes into the forest, and also severe droughts. So we have more than 2 million square kilometers of forest cleared or degraded. And then many studies are showing, I was the first one 33 years ago, 1990, to publish. I will only talk, just keep this one. I was the first one to publish a paper in Science, just showing that if deforestation was to continue, we would run this tipping point. I created the term savanization, at that term, quote-unquote savanization, because the idea was deforestation increasing tremendously. The climate in the southern portion of the Amazon would become a typical tropical savanna climate. Long dry season. The dry season in all of the Amazon is less than 4 months, 3 to 4 months in the southern and northern portion, in the border between the tropical savannas in the north, Colombia, Venezuela, and in the south, Brazil, Bolivia. So then many studies were carried out on what climate change might do to the Amazon, continued deforestation, etc. And basically, we got these ideas of the tipping point, which is if we had only deforestation, zero climate change, if deforestation exceeded 40%, we would go through the tipping point. And the tipping point would turn at least 50% of the Amazon into a degraded, open canopy degraded ecosystem. It's a savanna-like ecosystem, but very different from tropical savanna south of the Amazon, that is very rich in carbon and biodiversity. It was going to be very degraded open canopy ecosystem. And if you had only climate change, zero deforestation, the forest was there, then if the temperature in the Amazon was more than 2.5 degrees, the global warming 2 degrees, also you would cross that, because also the dry season would become too long in southern and northern Amazon. So those were many studies, and then unfortunately we got to a point where the tipping point is no longer a projection into the future. The tipping point is something that's taking place now. We are seeing the dry season in all southern Amazon, which is from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to Bolivia, 2.3 million square kilometers. The dry season is 4 to 5 weeks length here, already starting from 1979. In 43 years, the dry season is becoming much longer. So it was 3 to 4 months, now it's 4 to 5 months. Once it reaches 5 to 6 months, it does not maintain the forest. So in 3 more decades, we may really lose the Amazon, lose most of the Amazon. The dry season is lengthier, is 2-3 degrees warmer, 20-30% even drier. So all this area, the Amazon forest became a carbon source. As we all know, globally speaking, all the forests on the planet remove 1/3 of all carbon dioxide we emitted, fossil fuel, agricultural, deforestation. 1/3 is removed by global forests. The Amazon in the south has become a carbon source. I'm not talking about emissions by deforestation fires, I'm talking the forest. And also, tree mortality is increasing in more than 2.5 million square kilometers in the Amazon, and that's one of the reasons why the Amazon is becoming a carbon source, the forest is becoming a carbon source. So, really, we are at the edge, and this edge is a synergistic combination of 2 of the tipping elements that Marco showed this morning. In fact, 3. One is in the Atlantic Ocean, we have the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation. This is a circulation that's generated near the Greenland. The water there generates this very deep water that comes down the Atlantic all the way to Antarctic and then comes up in the Indian Ocean back through the Atlantic as a surface current, the Gulf Stream in the North Atlantic, and warms UK Nordic countries. That circulation is decreasing. Why is it decreasing? Because the melting of the Greenland ice. So what that is doing is making the tropical North Atlantic warmer. The North Atlantic being warmer, it's driving frequent droughts in the Amazon. 2005, 2010, 2020. And also, we as all of us know very well, El Nino phenomenon in the Pacific is becoming stronger. We had the record-breaking El Nino 2015-16 that was the hottest year in 120,000 years in our planet's history, which was 1.28 degrees warmer in 2015-16. Due to that El Nino drives very severe droughts in the Amazon. So we had 4 severe droughts, 2005, 10, 15, 16, 20. Usually, in the past, there was 1 severe drought every 2 decades. Now, 2 severe droughts per decade. So this is the first driver coming from these other 2 tipping elements, the melting of the Greenland ice sheet and also the weakening of the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation. And then we have synergistically the land use change tipping point, which is, as I mentioned, 2 million square kilometers deforested, degraded. It's recycling much less. Just to give you one figure, the degraded pasture, 90% of the first deforestation in the Amazon is for cattle ranches. During the dry season, the pasture, the grassland, evaporates 1/3, 1/4 as much as the forest. The forest in tropical Amazon evaporates more during the dry season than during the wet season. This is very unique of this tropical forest. That's why there's so much efficient recycling of water. And so we have the synergistic 2 tipping elements, the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation becoming weaker, the tropical North Atlantic becoming warmer, driving more droughts, and the Pacific as well, El Nino becoming warmer, driving stronger El Nino droughts, and the land use change, reducing the recycling of water, increasing the temperature. Maximum temperature in the pasture is 5 degrees warmer than on the top of the forest, 35 degrees. So this is all the combination, just to tell you how urgent it is to find nature-based solutions. If we do not find nature-based solutions soon, we are going to lose the Amazon. If we lose the Amazon, just to give you one very bad future, the Amazon forest stores 150 to 200 billion tons of carbon in the soil and in the vegetation, above soil vegetation. 150 to 200 billion tons of carbon. If we cross the tipping point, within 30 to 50 years, we are going to lose at least 250 billion tons of carbon dioxide. So if you say how much we can emit for the Paris Agreement, 400 billion tons of carbon dioxide to get 50% probability of getting not warming more than 1.5 degrees. 400 million. Only the Amazon would lose 250 billion. The permafrosts in northern Siberia and Canada, Alaska, would lose another 150 billion tons if we reach 2 degrees. So only the permafrost and the Amazon will reach this level for 1.5. Forget it. We are going to warm the planet 2.5, 2.7, even 3 degrees. So just to let you know. So therefore, we urgently need to look for nature-based solutions. So my final minutes, let me just say, first, zero deforestation, forest degradation, and wildfires in the Amazon. All of the Amazon. Immediately. Second, we launched during COP27 in Egypt a policy brief on the idea of creating the so-called arcs of restoration. We want to promote forest restoration in the Amazon, 2 big arcs. One from the Atlantic to Bolivia, as I said, in the southern portion, very close to the tipping point. The other one along the Andes, Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia, very high high deforestation rates there. Although rainfall is very large, there are 3 meters or more, but that's the area with the largest biodiversity on the planet. Largest biodiversity on the planet. So that's very important to restore as well the forest in there to protect the biodiversity. So we launched this policy brief. So the idea would be to restore a minimum of 500,000 square kilometers, a minimum. That will remove 600 million tons of carbon dioxide a year for 35 years. That's the secondary forest grows very fast. They remove between 11 and 18 tons of carbon dioxide per year over 35 years. So that would be very important to really keep 1.5 degrees in addition to net zero emissions before 2050. We need to remove minimum of 5 billion tons of carbon dioxide throughout the second half of this century. Nature-based solution, forest restoration, the most important forest fact, and also, of course, not even have to say, we had this morning a beautiful presentation by the World Health Organization here, and you should see how important it is to keep the forest to avoid epidemics and pandemics. So this is the solution we need, and also we need really to create a new bioeconomy we call a standing forest bioeconomy. Flowing rivers as well, because we do not need any more hydropower dams. In the Amazon countries, solar panel energy, wind energy is much cheaper even today compared to fossil fuel electricity. So, and also hydropower electricity. So we need to create this new standing forests, flowing rivers bioeconomy. That's the tremendous potential of biodiversity. Just to give you an idea, hundreds of cooperatives with agroforestry systems. These agroforestry systems, they produce tens and tens of products from the forest. I guess in the world, the product that is mostly known is the acai berry. Everybody knows acai berry today. But there are many other products, cocoa, Brazil nuts. There are tens and tens of products. 1 hectare in these agroforestry systems gives a profit of $1,000. 1 hectare of cattle ranch, $100. 1 hectare of soy crops, $500. So even twice as large compared to soy crops, 10 times more than cattle ranches. So therefore, this is the new economy that we need to develop. We need to create the new technology that's important for that. Industrialization, I have to say, Italy, over-industrialized country, beautifully industrialized country. So we have to bring industrialization also to the Amazon countries for the Amazon. So basically, those are my key messages. So get to zero. So that's really, this is our living vision for the Amazon. Zero deforestation, degradation, protection of indigenous people. Indigenous people maintain 25% of all the forest. All the forest, 2.2 million indigenous people in the Amazon. Tomorrow we are going to listen to one of the indigenous heads. Tada will give you this information about how important it is to protect the forest, keeping the indigenous people, culture, their knowledge. So that's really what we want to do. So to develop this new bioeconomy, to create a very large scale forest restoration project, this is really what we have to do urgently. So basically, let me finish just by saying, this is the Amazon we want, all of us want. We need to save the Amazon, we need to save the Amazonian people. Grazie mille.
Thank you very much, Carlo, for your inspiring presentation and for giving us very interesting solution to preserve the biodiversity in the Amazonian Basin. A questo proposito vorrei sottolineare come non è solo una questione di mitigazione del cambiamento climatico dovuto al ciclo del carbonio, alla capacità cambiare di stoccare il carbonio, ma fa riflettere profondamente sul ruolo delle foreste sul ciclo ecologico. Soprattutto noi che siamo nell'hotspot mediterraneo e sappiamo bene cosa vuol dire alterare i cicli idrologici dal punto di vista naturale, non solo dissesto, ma anche avere poi acqua di qualità è fondamentale per la pace anche del ciclo mediterraneo. Allora, a questo punto abbiamo un video filmato della Griffith University, Brendan McKay e Eda Kate, che ci presenteranno altre motivazioni interessanti perché dobbiamo conservare le foreste vetuste, e non solo dal punto di vista scientifico perché è interessante studiarle, ma soprattutto perché costituiscono degli ecosistemi di riferimento per queste soluzioni naturali finalizzate al restauro ecologico. Quindi prego la regia di inviare il filmato e poi magari faremo dei commenti alla fine.
Hello, Heather Kate from Griffith University. Welcome to Australia. Thank you for the invitation to present at this conference and share some further on the role of climate policy and climate mitigation in Europe and Australia. I appreciate collaborating with many climate science researchers in Europe, including Zoltan Kuhn, Gilberto Pichetto Fratin, and Enzo Gismundo. The critical actions of retain, reduce, and remove carbon are shown through the role of forests in the global carbon cycle. The key roles are, first, retain the accumulated carbon stocks of forests, and this maintains the natural terrestrial carbon sink derived from the net flux from photosynthesis and respiration. Second, reduce emissions through deforestation and degradation, in addition to ceasing fossil fuel emissions. Third, remove elevated CO2 from the atmosphere through restoration of secondary upgraded forests and other natural ecosystems. The gains in carbon stocks represent the economic of the land reservoir and cannot offset fossil fuel emissions. I'll illustrate these three key roles with results from Australia and Europe. The reason there is the potential for large gains in carbon storage in the land centre is because carbon stocks have been depleted in forest ecosystems due to human management, resulting in elevated CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere. This diagram illustrates the relative carbon stocks in land and atmosphere reservoirs for primary forest, secondary forest, and plantation forest. The carbon stocks and ceilings are drawn to scale, and the fluxes with arrows are between reservoirs or transfers to other forest management systems. The accumulated carbon stock in forest ecosystems is large, and larger than primary forests than previously recognised or estimated by global biomass and default values. These data for Europe for primary forest sites with biomass carbon stocks calculated from inventory data show that carbon stocks are on average 1.7 times larger than distance. The greatest difference in biomass is to mixed forests with rural or coastal forests. The reason primary forests have large carbon stocks is because large oak trees store the most carbon. Large trees store 50% of biomass in primary forests. In Australia, large trees are classified as greater than 100 centimetres diameter. Under Europe, large trees are 60 centimetres diameter. Carbon accumulation continues over time with ongoing forest growth. Examples shown here are the accumulation of biomass over centuries in the naturally living forests of Australia. These data are from living biomass components. There are additional carbon stocks in dead biomass and organic matter that continue to accumulate with time. The global analysis of flux data by ESA shows that the net biomass remains positive even in centuries of forest We show that biomass growing stocks are higher in carbon prices than the forests managed in harvesting locations. Data for biomass are often reliable for managed forests that are regularly inventoried, and so the potential of high carbon stocks in growing forests not be recognized. These data are from the most significant forests in Australia and show the long-term carbon tolerance at the landscape scale over the medium years. The red curve shows the carbon tolerance of all biomass components of primary forest and the natural disturbance regime of lower forests. The blue curve shows the total biomass in the harvested forest, which includes biomass components in the other colours below. The comparison shows that the harvested forest could store 70% of carbon if allowed to continue growing to retain the primary forest condition across the landscape. The potential for gains in carbon stocks is illustrated as the shift from the current carbon stock across the landscape that consists of significant forests between ages of harvesting. All forests are allowed to continue growing. Then they will regain the carbon capacity of the primary forest. This represents the carbon retention potential. To reveal the mitigation potential of forests, the system of carbon accounting needs improvement. This will support nature-based solutions and operationalising the ecosystem goals that we will contribute soon, which will be outlined in two policy discussion papers. The 5 key points are: first, separate national sectoral mitigation reporting components that support different financial mechanisms for fossil fuel, that is geocarbon, and ecosystems, that is biocarbon mitigation. Second, account for all carbon stocks. This shows the benefit of protecting forests and avoiding emissions. 3. Report gross gains and losses, not just the net products. This shows the actual emissions eliminated or activities. 4. Classify carbon reservoirs by the quantity and position in terms of stability, longevity, and resilience of carbon stocks. 5th, assess ecosystem carbon stocks against the reference signal that represents ecosystem integrity. Our recommendation is that the carbon accounting used the national reference inventory reporting from the mining sector to nearly 20% should be enhanced by adopting the accounting principles of the UN System of Environmental Information ecosystem. This comprehensive carbon reporting links consumers provides information for decision makers about mitigation implications of different land uses and management strategies. To summarise the mitigation value of forests, first, they store large carbon stocks in biosphere, which should be recognised, not just the area of sequestration. Second, they benefit human carbon time through ongoing growth of trees and transplants and carbon of their biomass and soil available. 3. The role of residence type of the carbon stock at the landscape scale. This is derived from the integrity of the ecosystem, its natural resilience, and adaptive capacity. This knowledge of the mitigation values allows us to prioritise actions. First, protect primary wildlife and natural forests. Strict protection of no human intervention that is deleterious to ecosystem integrity, carbon stocks, and biodiversity. Second, reduce emissions from harvesting by minimising the area of and ecosystem value and maximising the longevity of products. Third, restore degraded and secondary forests so that they can continue growing and accumulating carbon, with management based on the principles of connectivity and buffering areas of natural forests. Thank you very much. I will read the session online. but if there is not time for questions, I'm happy to post it right now. My address is h.k@griffin.edu.au. Thank you.
Grazie mille Kate, il punto sostanziale che secondo me vale la pena sottolineare è come proprio le riserve dello Stato rappresentano degli habitat molto interessanti per queste soluzioni naturali finalizzate proprio a comprendere attraverso programmi di restauro ecologico qual è la quantità di carbonio che è possibile accumulare negli ecosistemi forestali. E quello che avete visto è davvero sorprendente, cioè le stime che abbiamo da satellite sono molto sottostimate rispetto a quella che gli inventari forestali ci raccontano essere la situazione delle foreste in via via animali. Abbiamo delle sottostime di oltre il 50%. Quindi anche qui il Corpo Forestale dello Stato, i Carabinieri Forestali ora, con le riserve dello Stato hanno indicato la via del restauro ecologico, del ripristino di habitat funzionali e quindi anche per quello che riguarderà poi soluzioni interessanti di una closed natural forest, che proprio qui saremo chiamati a fare con foreste ad alto stock dal punto di vista provvigionale. Allora, detto questo, passerei a questo punto a chiamare John Falcone della World Commission on Protected Areas, che affronterà il problema dall'altra faccia della medaglia, dall'altra prospettiva, ossia perché abbiamo bisogno di costituire questa rete delle aree protette, perché la strategia forestale europea ha questo target ambizioso del 30% del territorio europeo marino e terrestre ricoperto da parchi e riserve, perché dobbiamo soprattutto istituire un 10% di riserve integrali sul nostro continente. Dobbiamo dimostrare al mondo che veramente stiamo invertendo quella curva del degrado degli habitat, della perdita di specie, e quindi prego con Zoltan Kun di illustrarci i motivi.
Thank you very much, Gianluca. I start my clock as well. Sorry for my voice, but I got a bit sick last week. I was again in Rome, and I got I don't know, something from the air conditioning in my room. So I hope you will hear me. And I have to address you in English. The only word I know is grazie, una emergenza, whatever happened here. Anyway, I will talk about the key principles for effective protected area design, planning, and management. So far, we heard mainly public institutions and researchers, and coming from the kind of civil society sector largely, although I was contributing to the previous presentation as well with Heather and with Gianluca. We were actually happy to which is the foundation which is in the Netherlands, Forest Defenders Alliance, which talks about itself, we defend forests in Europe. And the Green Impact, which is a later NGO we have here in Italy, actually, that's an Italian linkage to the conference. To link to the previous speakers, I'd like to highlight what Carlos said earlier actually about the restoration, the importance of restoration, which I think it's also critical here in Europe. And in this sense, although it's not the topic of my presentation, I should highlight that unfortunately, it looks as the European Parliament is going to block the EU nature restoration law, which is, I think, a shame, and all of us should speak up for the restoration law. I think we should not tolerate that the decision maker decides that restoration is not needed because nature is in good shape. But my presentation will highlight what's the current situation with forests in Europe. So, the main topic of my presentation is really the protected areas, protected and conserved areas. All of the definitions, all the elements that I cite here in my presentation are based on various WCPA publications, so you can actually check them online. They are officially available through the IUCN.org website. So, protected area, or nowadays we call them protected and conserved areas. They are clearly defined geographical space, recognized, dedicated, and managed through legal, rather effective means to achieve long-term conservation of nature. So here what is really important is the geographical space, so it's a territory, and it's legally protected. These are really, really important. The key role of protected and conserved areas, essentially that they protect biodiversity. They are territorial tools for biodiversity conservation. They are used throughout various national and international conservation strategies, like the Convention on Biological Diversity, Also, I think they are recognized in the UNFCCC negotiations as well. So here you could see with the bullet points what the main key role for protected areas. They are setting aside and maintaining natural functioning ecosystems. They are refuges for species. But actually they also play some other roles. And previous speakers talked about ecosystem services, which in a way it's a very much anthropocentric approach, but that's who we are. We like to see the world through our own eyes. So protected areas actually provide various other ecosystem services, not only biodiversity. Sometimes we call these nature's contribution to people. I don't want to get into this debate which one is a better role. I keep using the ecosystem services definition. There are the provision of services like timber, fruits, wildlife. Some of the protected areas, especially particularly those that, for instance, landscape protected areas, they actually provide certain provision of services, what I listed here. Then, regulating services, this might be actually higher than the provision of services in some cases. Together with Heather Keith and Brandon Mackey, who was contributing to research, we also did research on forest ecosystem services. Fita Lutaya was the main contributor, main author of that paper, and in this paper we actually found that the timber provisioning is only 8% of all the services that the forest in general provide. So regulating services like climate, water retention, soil, nutrients, water cycle, and we also have to remember the cultural services. In the morning, I think the head of Carabinieri mentioned about the importance of education and people getting out of nature. So we should not underestimate the role of how forests can have our mental health as well. So this cultural service, spiritual service is also very, very important. 26%, I just wanted to highlight this, that's the current protected area coverage in Europe. Honestly, I think this is a fake number, but this is available on the European Environment Agency website. The IG target, so the previous CDD target was 17% for terrestrial areas. In Europe, we reached 26%, and this data varies, of course, between 41 in Bulgaria, 33 in Finland. Italy has 21, and my country, where I came from, Hungary, we have 22, so we are kind of competing with each other. Who knows which country will reach the 30% more, but again, here we should also talk about quality versus quantity. And that's the core of my presentation, the second part of my presentation. Also, the EU biodiversity strategy, earlier the representative of the Commission mentioned the biodiversity strategy for 2030, or the Green Deal particularly, aims to step up protection. So basically, the overall target of the biodiversity strategy is to bring nature back to our life. Get nature closer to our daily life. And there was a communication published from the European Commission. Basically, this biodiversity strategy announced elements like the nature restoration law, which announced the forest monitoring law. But we also have to recognize that this paper, basically, this communication is really just a soft law. It's a commitment, a political commitment, coming from the EU and coming from the member states. The role of us, scientists, or the role of public bodies, also to kind of listen to the civil society organization like myself, that actually this biodiversity strategy has to be implemented, and we have to reach the key elements. The first key element in this biodiversity strategy, at least from my perspective of this conference, is the 30 by 30 element. Protecting 30% of the terrestrial land, terrestrial and marine areas by 2030. Interestingly, I think this communication was published back in 2021, if I'm correct, 2020 maybe, with biodiversity strategy. So it's all 3 years old now, kind of, two and a half years old. But it reflects what was agreed last December in Montreal, the CBD Global Biodiversity Framework, the GBF, which the EU and the member states are signatories. So the 30% protection is also included in this GBF. It applies to both terrestrial and marine areas. So in a way, having here the Navy person from the marine, Italian marine was quite relevant. We not have to talk only about first, but protecting other ecosystems as well. What is really important, again, in the GBF, 30% degraded land are under effective restoration measure by 2030. This was committed and by the signatories of CPD. So even if the European Parliament blocks the EU nature restoration law, we will have a tool to push the European government or the EU governments that they actually sign up for this GBF. They have to do the implementation of restoration in Europe as well. And the GBF brought the idea of the other effective area-based conservation measures on board, which is part of the protected and conserved areas. And tomorrow, one of my fellow countrymen will talk about indigenous and local knowledge. It also brought in the indigenous and local community territories into the concept of protected and conserved areas. So what's the second key element? Again, for the perspective of this conference, is this 10% stick protection. Basically, the EU biodiversity strategy said that 30% of the land and marine areas should be protected, and 10%, so 1/3 of all the protected areas should be strictly protected, where, and that's my kind of addition, in my view, the default value for this is basically non-intervention management. There is a debate how to interpret stick protection, of course, but I can promise you that this organizations will really thrive for the default application as non-intervention management. If you take a mathematical approach, a very simple one, then in most of the European countries it would mean that they have to protect 15% of the forest strictly as wilderness areas. And Heather Keith, the previous speaker, actually highlighted why this is important from carbon stock, carbon protection point of view, and that's a role which I think the Carabinieri, or I don't know, Corpo Forestale, they call it like it still, Carabinieri can play a very strong role because you can play a role in law enforcement. I think this is really important in the future to guarantee that stick protection will actually mean stick protection. So the third element is the old wood forest. This is also part of the biodiversity strategy, and this is where I heard together with Francesco, who is going to speak tomorrow, Gianluca, Alfredo, Filippo, who are all here, and this will be a topic I think tomorrow. For the first time, the EU actually recognized the importance of old wood forest, and that all of the old wood forest in Europe has to be urgently mapped and strictly protected. That's a very strong element of the biodiversity strategy, and actually the Commission has already published a guideline how this should be interpreted. It was published actually on 22 of March, which was the International Day of Forest. So now getting into the management effectiveness part, in the last part of my presentation, the first step is of course confirm that the area is a protected area. So that's the first element. Second, we have to define which category, because the WCP IUCN was setting up a list of categories for protected areas, which category your protected or our protected fits into. Then there are 6 categories, 6 or 7, because actually the first category, strict protection, is divided into 1A, strict nature reserve, and 1B, wilderness areas. This categorization went through an update, so the second category, which used to be called as National Park, is now called Ecosystem Conservation and Protection. Typically, these are the national parks in Italy or the national parks, for instance, in Hungary, but because in some of the countries, national parks are basically just densely protected areas, which is category 5, IUCN decided to make this update and do clarification how the second category should be managed. That's why it's called Ecosystem Conservation and Protection. Basically, the protected area is dedicated to natural processes. So in category 2 areas, the default value, again, default management value is again international management, that the nature is Then WCPA set up a management check in this framework. A document or a guideline document is available about this. It was recently updated. The document, again, is available on the IUCN website. Basically, the evaluation of protected area goes through the assessment of various indicators. So there 6 different categories, and I try to speed up my presentation because we have a bit of a delay here. But basically, the way how you can benefit from evaluation is helping the design of new protected areas, but help the design also of existing areas, but also to have the management of existing protected areas, enable to actually adopt the management of an area for various changing circumstances, like even how we can respond to climate change. And it can also help to assist an effective resource allocation, because we all know that the resources that are available in the protected areas are not endless. We have to guarantee that the relatively limited resources are used in the most effective way. So the 6 categories where we have various indicators are actually grouped in 3 groups. First, design. This is where we look at the context, assessment of the importance of the area. Did we actually designate the right territory for protection, or maybe we need a modification of the boundaries? We also look at the threats and the policy context of the protected area, and then we also look at the planning, assessing the design and the planning of the management actions. Then the second group, which has 2 categories: the inputs, what are the resources available for the protected areas, and how these resources are actually turned into management actions. That's the process. And finally, the delivery. What is the output? How the management program is implemented by the organization. It could be a directorate of the national park, or a larger area that is in charge of a network. One important element here that we can assess single protected areas, but we can also assess protected area systems. So again, talking a little bit about Italy, we can evaluate the totality of all the national parks, for instance, in Italy, or we can select one single area of Lazio, or is a national park, and then do the assessment for this one single area. And then look at the outcomes, how we reach actually the objectives that are defined in the management plan. Are we successful to deliver the promised results? Why this is important for us here, especially in Europe, because again, in the EU biodiversity strategy, we also brought in the effectiveness of the Natura 2000 network. This is also part of the key commitments by 2030, that all protected areas are actually effectively managed and monitored, which means that we have to step up the conservation program to the effectiveness of the Natura 2000, Natura 2000 network as well. And the EU, the Commission, is supposed to assess the progress towards this goal already in the next year. Why this is important, and that's why again, I go back to forest issues a little bit, particularly 14%. What does this mean? This means that according to the European Environmental Agency, State of Nature in the EU report that is published in every 7 years, based on the Article 70 reporting of every member state. So this is again not our partisan data of certain organizations, but this is the data of public bodies. It shows that only 40% of the forest inside the Natura 2000 network are in favorable conservation status. This is actually a shocking figure. That's the figure that should be shown to every single member of the European Parliament when they argue that nature is in a good condition in Europe. No, even within the Natura 2000 sites, we have really big problems, and nature requires restoration in Europe. It's not that we have to reach the 30% target, but we also need to reach quality of nature, and we need to reach quality of protected areas. That's where I would argue that maybe increasing the territories on paper is really not enough. We really need to increase the quantity of protected areas as well. That's why assessment is key. And my last slide is basically an argument that I would like to bring in here. Obviously, we also have to stop the purpose incentives that actually deteriorate protected areas. The Renewable Energy Directive, which drives even further logging inside protected areas. Because the Renewable Energy Directive currently still considers the primary body of the biomass as a renewable energy, based on the climate plan, as part of the climate plan. And I mean, it's not really hard to understand that within the given time frame that we have, by 2050, that we would like to be carbon neutral in Europe, the renewability of primary wind devices is hardly possible. One element here would be really that we have to recognize that burning primary wind devices is not carbon neutral. We have to get areas where logging for primary wind devices for energy should be stopped, basically. Minimum in strictly protected areas, but preferably in these protected areas in order to improve the emission. Thank you. There is no time for questions, but I will be here today, although I'm going to join the conference very soon, but after 5 o'clock I'm available for answering questions, and I will be here also tomorrow. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zoltan. Sicuramente ha richiamato la nostra attenzione tutta una serie di problemi rimasti aperti, non è solo una questione di estinzione di foreste, ma anche di qualità del nostro patrimonio forestale. Questo è il primo bene, no? Lo sappiamo bene, detto che ci portiamo dietro come forestali l'Italia è un paese ricco di posti poveri. Questa tendenza stiamo via via recuperando. Ecco, un tema che vorrei sottolineare è quello delle riserve integrali, del cosiddetto land sparing, no? L'Università di Bologna ha chiuso da poco un lavoro internazionale a scala europea, ha cercato di tracciare e monitorare quante sono le riserve, diciamo, integrali, intendendo non solo UCN 1 come categoria, ma anche i parchi nazionali 2. Ecco, a scala europea siamo al 3,5%, quindi il compito che ci spetta è veramente importante, trovare il 10% del territorio in Europa da sottoporre a protezione integrale, ed è fondamentale da fare non solo per proteggere la biodiversità in Europa, ma per dimostrare al mondo che è possibile invertire, no, come abbiamo detto, la curva del degrado degli ecosistemi. Ora, questo 3,5% a scala europea è un po' come il pollo di Trilussa, quindi se ci costruiamo in montagna siamo oltre il 16%, ma se ci muoviamo verso la costa, verso la pianura, ad esempio nell'area continentale, siamo veramente a uno 0,7%, quindi capiamo come dovremo a questo punto veramente passare a una pianificazione efficace del cosiddetto land sparing. Invece, passando a tutt'altro tema, che è quello del land sharing, quindi dove l'uomo è artefice del paesaggio culturale e dell'uso delle risorse, inviterei a questo punto Hubert Assenauer della Open University e anche della UFRO, membro della UFRO, a parlarci di innovazione forestale e ricerca e disseminazione. Quindi l'altra faccia della medaglia, molto importante dello sviluppo sostenibile, quello di sviluppare via via tecnologie e tecniche a minor impatto ambientale per avere un rapporto più close to nature. Prego, Hubert.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I think if I recall my talk, what I'm presenting to you, I think it fits quite well to my previous speakers. Also, we have discussed it in class. So the topic here is forest innovation, research and dissemination, and I'd like to start with this slide. The world land cover change, and I think what you see here is that the first continent who was, I would say, very successful in a cynical way to reduce the land cover was Europe. This has a historic reason. Then the next big deforestation area was the southeastern United States. And today we know the hotspot is Asia, and then the Amazon area, and also in the area in the tropical forests in Gabon, Congo River Basin, and so on. You know these areas. What I think is also important, that these large deforestations have led to the promotion of non-native tree species. I think this is really something we in Europe experience with the colonies. I mean, if you are shortage on timber and you see trees who grow a bit faster somewhere else, you of course try to plant them in Europe. And another big issue which we have to deal with here, and I picked just one example, is that in large parts of Europe we promoted tree species outside their natural range. This doesn't mean that they don't grow at this place, but they are beyond the natural range, and this is of course a big issue in the biodiversity debate and a lot of other things, also in terms of the stress profile of this space and so on. And I picked here an example from southern Germany. These trees are extremely valuable, they grow very fast, and if you talk to a forest company owner, you should get closer to the natural species proportion, then they say, okay, do you want to ruin me? climate change as we speak. But also we can be very proud in Europe, not so pessimistic. We are the only continent who were able to increase the forest cover. So right now it depends a bit what you understand under Europe. Is it the EU 27 or 28, or is it Europe as a whole?